You are 10 years old, and a single summer feels like an entire lifetime. You wake up, ride your bike until the streetlights come on, and somehow, the afternoon stretches endlessly into the evening. Fast forward to 35. You blink, and an entire season has slipped right through your fingers. Same planet. Same 24 hours in a day. Same 60 seconds in every single minute. So why does your mind convince you that time is constantly picking up speed as you age? The answer has nothing to do with your calendar getting busier. It has everything to do with how your brain builds memories, measures novel information, and processes the world around you. Back in 1890, psychologist William James proposed a theory about why time speeds up. He noticed that when you are young, almost every experience is entirely brand new. Your first day of school, the first time you touch snow, the first time you taste a strange fruit. Because your brain has never encountered these things before, it has to work extra hard to process them. It records every tiny detail, every color, every sound, and every emotion into rich, dense memories. When you look back on a time filled with dense memories, your mind judges that period as incredibly long. But as you get older, novelty begins to fade away. You drive the exact same route to work. You sit in the exact same chair. You eat similar meals and talk to the same people. Your brain, trying to save energy, puts your day on complete autopilot. Instead of creating detailed new files, it simply compresses the day. If 10 days in a row look identical, your brain stores them as a single summary chunk. When you look back at the end of the month, there are fewer distinct memory markers to measure. And to your perception, a month with fewer memory markers feels like it passed in a heartbeat. Neuroscientists recently tested this exact phenomenon using simple visual experiments. They showed volunteers a series of identical images on a screen, flashing one after another at steady intervals. Suddenly, in the middle of the routine, they flashed a completely unexpected image, like a bright red sphere. Even though the unexpected image was on screen for the exact same fraction of a second as the others, the brain required more neural energy to make sense of the new image. That spike in mental effort directly stretched the internal sensation of time. Think about what happens when you go on vacation to a city you have never visited before. The first 3 days feel huge. Navigate unfamiliar streets, try unknown foods, and absorb new sounds. By day 4, it feels like you left home weeks ago. That isn't a glitch. That is your brain working overtime, actively recording every piece of fresh data. There is also a fascinating mathematical explanation known as the proportional theory. When you are 5 years old, a single year represents 20% of your entire life. That single year is a massive fraction of your accumulated existence. By the time you reach 50, a year is just 2% of your total lived experience. Your internal scale of comparison has changed completely. Each new block of time is measured against a much larger pile of existing memories. So relative to everything you have already lived through, 12 months feels significantly smaller. Then, there is the physical hardware inside your skull. Our internal perception of time is closely linked to our metabolic rate and brain signals. When you are a child, your heart beats faster, your metabolism runs high, and your brain processes visual information at rapid speed. Researchers tracking eye movement found that children make far more rapid eye movements, called saccades, per second than adults. Because a child takes in more mental images per second, their internal frame rate is higher. As we age, metabolic processes slow down, and neural pathways grow more established. Your brain collects fewer mental snapshots every minute. When the frame rate drops, the movie seems to play faster. This brings us to a shift that most people never realize is happening. You aren't just losing novelty. You are actively replacing experience with routine. Efficiency is great for getting tasks done, but it is absolute poison for time perception. When you learn to drive a car, the experience is intense. You notice hands on the wheel, the pressure of the pedal, the distance between cars, the mirrors. 5 years later, you can drive 30 miles without remembering a single turn. Your brain mastered the task, handed it off to subcortical structures, and effectively checked out of conscious recording. When entire weeks are handed over to subconscious routine, those weeks vanish from your mental timeline. This is why childhood felt so long, not because you had fewer responsibilities, but because you were constantly forced to pay attention. So what does all of this mean for your life today? It means you are not helpless against the speed of time. If time feels like it is accelerating, it is simply a signal that your brain is operating on predictable patterns. You cannot change the clock, but you can change how much data your brain records. The antidote to fast time isn't slowing down your daily tasks. It is forcing your mind into unfamiliar territory. Take a completely new route home from work tomorrow. Cook a meal using ingredients you have never tried before. Pick up a skill where you are guaranteed to fail at first. When you put yourself in situations where you cannot rely on autopilot, your brain turns the recording hardware back on full power. It starts capturing details again. Down rich, dense markers that stretch out the room. You aren't adding more hours to your day, but you are adding more depth to the hours you have left. So here is the thought worth carrying with you tonight. How many days of your past month were actually recorded, and how many were just compressed into the background? Comment below with one routine you are going to break this week to force your brain to slow down. Subscribe to Ink Explainer for more deep dives into the science of human behavior.